Hi everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. Today we have a full moon in Leo, so I will be reading the cards in that way, in terms of looking at like releasing things, letting things go, things we no longer want to hold on to. Okay, so I have 3 groups for you today, group 1, group 2, and group 3. You can go ahead and pick by the card you can see, by the number, by the sound of my voice, group 1, 2, or 3. When you're ready, all the timestamps are below, and I will see you at the reading that you chose. Hi everyone, welcome. It's for everyone who picked group number 1. So you all picked the card Flicker. So the Flicker bird is about dreams. So there's 2 things when we think about dreams, right? There is when we're sleeping dreams and when we daydream, when we have these like visions or ideas or things we want to have for us. So I think I want to talk about both of them. So when we think about dreams when we're sleeping, for example, right? Sometimes we have a dream and then we look up like, what does this mean? What is this symbol? What is whatever? And that can be helpful, but it's also important to remember that sometimes it's just as helpful, just as important to check in with ourselves. Be like, what was I feeling? What was happening? What came up for me? What memories came up for me, right? Sometimes we get really caught up in like the symbols of the dreams instead of like tuning inward and saying, well, like, what did I feel within myself? What felt good for me? What felt bad for me? What was, the general energy of this? Sometimes people think like, oh, I dreamed about this person, so that means I need to reach out to them or whatever. It doesn't necessarily mean that. Only you can discern your dreams in the best way for you. But, when we do these types of things, it's important to remember that, sometimes when we're sleeping, our dreams, like us, is our subconscious processing, and it's more important to check in, well, what did I feel and why? And journaling about that, and taking a moment to turn inward and say, well, what was going on for me, instead of being like, okay, well, I dreamt about a snake and a snake means this, or I dreamt about this thing and that means this. That can be helpful again, but really putting our first response into our own self and checking in with ourselves and, saying, well, what is going on for me? What feels right for me? What feels like the right thing for me? Okay. And then when we think about dreams, the other way, daydreams, right? When we're alive and things like that, daydreams are things that are more like, wishes from our heart, things we want to have happen, things we wish to have happen, all of that, right? And so when we're daydreaming, it's important to think about like, like, well, why do I want this, right? Sometimes we can be like, well, I want this thing because it means this, right? Thinking about why we want something is just as important as like the actual thing we want. And so it's okay to have desires and dreams and goals and expand and all of that, of course, definitely. But when we turn inward and we say, okay, well, I'm actually drawn towards this thing because, let's say, for example, I think it will give me stability, or I think it will, help me out of like, I won't have to do my inner work as much as, if I have this other thing, right? So really looking at that, and there's no right or wrong answers. It's just about getting curious, doing some internal investigation, doing some thinking about what's going on with me, so that you can get clear about like, oh, I just wanted this thing because I thought it meant this particular thing for me. I don't actually want it, right? Or I just wanted this thing because I thought it meant whatever. And so when we go inward and we do some investigation and look at ourselves, then we have more awareness and then we can make better decisions. So I feel like, just letting ourselves look at what's coming up for us, because sometimes we can just get attached to things or decide, well, this is the thing I want and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, is it actually that thing, or is it the emotion or the thing I have attached to it that I think I'm going to have between there, right? So this flicker bird is a reminder that, letting like the way we interpret what is happening to us and our mind and our dreams and where it goes, that's like the most important thing. And the last thing about this is like sometimes we, for those of us who do want to do inner work, who do want to be reflective, who do want to think about ourselves, sometimes the hardest thing for us to do is to let some of these things like mean nothing, right? To just let it be a thing that happened. And I'm moving on with my day now, and I don't need to overthink it anymore. And that can be very hard for us. So if that is you, I just want to say I see you and it's valid. And just remembering that, okay, well, maybe I just need to let this mean nothing instead of, like making myself feel so unsure, going back and forth about what this thing could possibly mean. Okay, so checking inward and just remembering like our dreams are there to help us, and our dreams are there to, give us insight into ourselves more than like actually making them absolutely come to fruition immediately with everything, which can be helpful, but just looking at that. Okay, I'm going to start with some tarot cards for you guys in group 1. And then we'll look at your oracle cards. Okay, so opening, we have Strength, Page of Pentacles, and the Two of Wands. So I feel like, particularly with this full moon, like full moon's releasing things, letting things go. I feel like it's time for you to not release your dream, but maybe release a attachment, or like loosen your grip a little bit on it, right? Like, so I think this is saying, you have the strength to let it go. Sometimes we're afraid, if I surrender this one thing, or if I like don't try to force it or rush it or whatever, then I'm never going to get it. It's not going to work out. It's not going to, whatever. But the truth is, like, there's so many things we harm ourselves because we have such a tight grip on things. We try to control these things we can't control. And so with these cards, what I'm really getting is like releasing your grip on it, and like having the strength to do that, right? Sometimes we can't let something go because we think like, well, I have to control it. How's it going to happen? But like being able to surrender, being able to let something go is actually a very, very high form of emotional intelligence. It's a high form of emotional awareness. It's a high form of like trusting yourself, trusting God, all of that, right? So when you do that, I think you're able to kind of look at this in a new light, in a way that's a little more kind and releasing and not as intense. And that also, of course, opens up your energy to new possibilities. So it's like and it doesn't mean, sometimes we're scared. Okay, just got a lot of ones. Sometimes we're scared to let something go because we think it means, okay, well, if I let this go, then I'm just not going to have anything, or it's not going to happen, or it's not whatever. It's very human to want to look at something and be like, okay, well, it has to be this particular way, this timing, this person, this situation, this job, this whatever. But when we are able to let that go, it's actually easier for us to like, either that thing can come and after we focused on ourselves a little bit more, or we can be more open to something that actually is a better fit for us, which, surprise, God is right more often than we are. And when we get so focused on like, it has to be this, it has to be whatever, it can get just really, we can trick ourselves and challenge ourselves, and things just get so, we make things harder for us than we have to. So it's like, what am I really holding on to that I don't need to anymore? What can I release? What can I let go of? All of that energy. And again, like really looking at, so it's okay for when you're doing the inner work, like sometimes our dreams change, sometimes our goals change. When we go through certain experiences, like our relationships change, right? It doesn't mean they have to end or we have to give up on them, but just doing a check-in and being self-reflective, like that's so important to do. We're committed to this inner work because we do change and things are different, and we do have to have a different choice of what we're doing, right? A different way of doing all of that. Okay, then we have the Seven of Wands, Knight of Cups, and King of Pentacles. So again, this energy of just like make things easier for you. I feel like sometimes we're so scared to let something go because we are scared of doing something different, right? Even if we're not super comfortable with what's going on, we know what's going on, like our current situation, right? We know what it is. It's predictable, even if we don't like it, right? It's like familiar to us. And so it's like in our comfort zone, again, even if we don't necessarily like it. But again, the Seven of Wands, this is about inner conflict, inner struggle, making things harder for ourselves than they have to be, like all of that stuff, in these ways. And so seeing again, if we can release that, if we can let it go, if we can, not cause ourselves that inner stress, and just, you do it one step at a time, one thing at a time, one day at a time, one breath at a time, sometimes, right? Like getting out of your comfort zone. Sometimes it's hard for us because we're like, I'm here and I'm going to go all the way over here. And it's like, that's too much. You're going to shut down. Like you can't do it unless there's like an extreme outside motivator, right? Like a medical diagnosis or an extreme situation or something, right? But in general, going from this to this is like, that's how we change. Like we change our lives just a little bit every single day, a little bit, and it adds up and it changes. And then that's how we grow and change and expand. Right. So just having faith that just taking one little step out of your comfort zone, doing one little thing differently, all that is going to add up. It is going to be different. It is going to allow things to be different in your life. And then we have this King of Pentacles, which is like mastery, right? So I feel like, there's things where we, how many times we do something and then we're just like, oh, wait a minute. Like I didn't have to, like, I just suddenly can do this thing now, or I didn't even have to, like, when we're in the process of mastering a certain skill or changing our life or whatever, it's like, if we just keep showing up when we don't want to, we just keep being consistent, we just keep doing these little things we can do, all of that adds up and helps us get to this new place of just like, oh, okay, like I did it. Like suddenly I'm a different person. Like suddenly here I am. Things are different. I'm different. I've changed. Things have changed, all of that. And just a way that's like, can be a little surprising and can be a little, we didn't really, we put in the effort, but when we again loosen our I keep hearing loosen our grip for group 1, right? When we loosen our grip a little bit, it kind of adds a lot of things to be able to come in and to happen instead of us like forcing or trying to make it happen or all of that. And again, like when you keep showing up, when you keep doing your part and being responsible for yourself, that's when things start changing for you. Okay, and then we have the Ace of Cups, 8 of Pentacles, and 5 of Wands. So yeah, so I feel like this is a reminder to stay humble. Okay, sometimes when we, and this is no judgment, okay, because I've been there too, but sometimes when we put in the work for something, when we commit to ourselves, when we like get this, right, life is about continuing to grow and expand and change. And so sometimes when we get in this place of like, oh, I put in all this time and effort, I've done all my stuff, I've, whatever, and like the cup does start overflowing, we do feel like, okay, I did this, I'm getting, there's like equal energy exchange in physical reality versus what I'm putting in, right? When we have all these things going on, it's important to remember that even when we have like mastery of one level of our lives or like an area of our life or like something we've worked through, it's important to remember that that doesn't stop the growth on the soul level. So you still will be required to put in the work. You still will be required to show up for yourself. It might not be as extreme as the first time you had to like, rewrite your whole life, right? Let's say, but you still will be required to put in the work to show up for yourself, to do all of that. And then this 5 of Wands is a reminder that there will be conflict, okay? And conflict doesn't necessarily mean like chaos. It doesn't mean it's horrible. It doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It just means there's a situation going on where there is some back and forth, some push pull, and that's normal for healthy people who are close with each other. And it doesn't have to be, again, chaos. Conflict can be closeness. Conflict can be an opportunity to understand each other. And there can be inner conflict for you to be like, oh, wow, I'm being challenged in this way that I wasn't challenged before. So again, it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It just means it's something that happened. And you can work through it again with this dreams card, like thinking about what insight is the situation giving me versus like, okay, this is what's happening. It's like, well, what's my reaction to this? What's my response to this? What's going on? And looking at the ways that these things kind of play together to make your situation and what you can do to, that's part of putting in the work for ourselves, right? Is thinking about, well, like, what's my role in this? What's my responsibility in this? And again, not judging you or having you take the blame for something that isn't your fault, but just unfortunately, there are things in this realm where are not our fault, and we still have to be responsible for ourselves and deal with some of the real world situations of things that have happened because of that. Okay, then we have the Hanged Man, 5 of Cups, and Death. So I feel like group 1, there's some resistance to this because you don't want to let something go, or maybe grieve. There's a grieving process. It could be grieving your old self. It could be grieving, the life you thought you were going to have. It could be grieving like relationships that have had, like that were so close but couldn't continue. So again, this is really big energy. The Hanged Man is like learned helplessness. It's like not taking responsibility for yourself. It's like, oh, I can't do anything, look. And then 5 of Cups, obviously very much mourning energy. And then Death is, letting things die. And so I feel like, sometimes we don't have power over the loss in our life. Sometimes it could be so simple and so obvious to us, like, well, if this person just did this, this, and this, if they just showed up in this way, if they just did their part, if they were just willing, then things could be so much easier. Everyone has free will. We can't make anyone do anything they don't want to do. We can't make anyone be someone they don't want to be. We can't do any of that stuff. So these cards are a reminder that it's okay for you to feel sad and still do what you have to do to show up for yourself. It's okay for you to feel upset and know that it's still important for you to take responsibility for yourself and be like, okay, this is what happened to me and it sucks and I hate it and I'm not excusing that, but I am still going to move forward with my life in a way that feels good to me and in a way that like respects myself and honors myself, right? Sometimes we make these decisions from our wounding or from like an old place when it's actually time for us to turn inward and be like, okay, how can I show up in a way that is kind and loving and respects myself, right? If you're not sure what choice to make, just think about, okay, in a year from now, I will be so happy that I respected myself and showed up for myself. So what does that look like today? What could I do for myself today that is like reflecting the fact that I respect myself, that I'm showing up for myself, that I'm willing to be there for myself in like a kind, loving way. So again, it's okay. Sometimes we just have to be in like the sadness of it. Sometimes we're not ready to take responsibility for ourselves, right? But when we do get to that place where it is like, okay, I'm uncomfortable enough now that I do want to do something different. I do want to have something different in my life. This is the time to look at all of that and, letting things end and letting things die. It's sad and it's hard, but that's life. Life always moves forward and always asks us to do the next layer of our lives, the next layer of ourselves. And this is, really honoring and looking at that. And not in like a spiritual bypassing way, but again, like turning inward and just deciding what's the best thing for me here? What do I need to do? How can I show up for myself instead of, again, just saying like, okay, well, this is what happened to me, so I can't do anything. It's like our lives and our soul and our spirit are much more of a reflection of what we do with what's given to us than like, being able to say, well, this never happened to me. Like we're not in control of so many things, but what we do with that is like what we're in control of and what we can actually connect to and be responsible for. Okay, I'm going to look at your oracle cards. Okay, look at this. I feel like this was the theme of your whole reading, group 1, deep inner knowing. Okay, so again, like this isn't to, we are an interdependent species. It does feel good to connect with other people and all of that, but it is important to remember that there are things inside of us that we know that we don't know what it's like inside of our body, more than anyone else does. And so it's important for us to remember that we can check inward, we can connect with ourselves, we can do all of that. While also remembering sometimes, deep inner knowing does tell us, well, I do need to reach out to this person. I do need help with this particular thing. I don't know how to do this other thing, right? So deep inner knowing can be a reminder that it's good to, to just listen to what's going on in your heart. Let yourself be surprised by what your heart's telling you, what your soul is telling you, instead of just like moving forward with all these things that maybe don't make the most sense, right? Then we have take risk. This is beautiful. This is the mountain goat. So if you're a Capricorn, you have Capricorn in your chart, this might be relevant for you. If not, don't worry about it. But take risk. This is climbing to the top of the mountain, putting yourself out there, moving forward. Again, what I was talking about with like getting out of your comfort zone and getting out of your own way. And just remembering that like it does, if it feels uncomfortable, that means you're growing, right? Sometimes the discomfort of like being different and doing something different, we can get confused and just be like, oh no, like this is something horrible that's happening to me and blah, 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 right? But take risk is a reminder that there is something on the other side that is worth it. And like you climb the mountain one step at a time, one thing at a time, by being responsible for yourself, by wanting to do something different instead of just staying, in your own little bubble of life and not trying to do something in this way. Okay, so take risk, no risk, no reward, all of that. And then lastly, we have Akasha, your guidance is divinely guided. Your guidance is divinely guided. That's a good sentence. So again, I feel like this is the whole, just connecting the whole reading back together, right? Like all of us have a connection to God, have a connection to our angels, to the spirits, to, whatever. All of us have a connection to God that no one else can touch. And so our guidance is specifically created for us, right? Our guidance is like, you can ask someone, what does this mean? And what does da 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 da, right? But there's nothing like cultivating that inner connection with yourself and your higher power and just being able to be still and listen to that and reflect to that and connect to that, right? Nothing can replace that. And so your guidance is divinely guided. And also that I just want to, again, reiterate, that doesn't mean everything's going to go your way in life. It doesn't mean everything's going to be perfect. And everything's going to be, I decided I wanted this thing, so it should be like this, or, your guidance is divinely guided is just a reminder that there are things working on your behalf, like God is gentle and kind and does want good things for us. And so this is a reminder that, your guidance is divinely guided and things do not go our way, right? Sometimes our guidance is not like, we're like, oh, I can't hear the guidance, but it's like, can you not hear it? Or it's just not the guidance you want, right? Okay, so just trusting that, having faith in that, leaning into that instead of feeling like, oh no, I'm being punished because of this particular thing, right? Life is not on our terms. It's on all these other things that are going on besides ourselves. Okay, I'll close one affirmation card for you. Creativity flows from me. I am a divine creator. So again, this is what I was talking about. Like, even if this can mean art, obviously, right? Like music or painting or drawing or whatever, but this also means, creativity is also like the stories we tell ourselves, how we think about ourselves, what we put out into the world, how we show up for ourselves. So creativity flows from me. I'm a divine creator. Just remember, again, no one can touch your connection with you and God if you make that a priority and you nourish that and really care for it and put the energy that is required into it. That's everything I have for you. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. If you ever want any more information about me, all that is linked below. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Hi, everyone. Welcome. It's for everyone who picked group number 2. Joe picked the card Grackle of the Birdkin Feather deck. So this card is about like igniting energy, about igniting the inner self, expressing the inner self, letting yourself be who you really feel in your heart you are, and showing that to the world. So again, this Grackle energy is about like, it's time to take up space. It's time to express yourself. It's time to feel clear in who you are, feel connected, right? Let yourself be that way. Sometimes we can feel like, okay, well, I can't express myself because of this, or this, or I can't express myself in this way, or this setting, or this situation, or this, whatever. But this is a reminder that it is important to let yourself be in spaces or be in relationships or have friends where you really can be your full self, and just like how nourishing that is to just let yourself honor like all these parts of you. So I'm getting 2 things with this. The first could be, again, with this Leo energy, right? Really owning who you are and being that. The first thing is maybe stepping into that first of all, right? So it's like, how have I been making myself small? How have I not been letting myself be myself and honor all the parts of myself, or like, oh, I can't be like this or whatever. And again, sometimes it's a safety thing, sometimes it's an access thing, which I get, but what are the parts of you that you've kind of, most of us have learned to do this, and then we have to unlearn it later in life, right? We've shoved down, we've made small, said, I can't be like this, I can't do this thing, I can't whatever, what are those parts? How can they come out? How can they have space? How can they feel like a clear part of who you are, instead of just feeling like you can't do this, you can't be here, you can't, whatever. And then the other piece with that is like, okay, maybe, not all of us comes out in every single setting, right? That we have certain interests or certain parts of our personality, that we have different friend groups or different activities we're involved in, different hobbies, right? That nourish all these different parts of our souls. And so with this Ignite card, like the Ignite energy of the Grackle, it's like, where can I go to do these things, right? It doesn't have to be, some things are obvious, right? Like, okay, I'm a painter, need to go to a painting class, or if I'm this, I need to do this, right? But it can be a little more broad, right? So how can I honor my creative energy? That looks different for everyone else. How can I honor like, me wanting to do this particular thing? What does that look like? How can I, just really honoring like the different paths and the different things that our souls want to express themselves, and knowing that, okay, well, where can that be in my life? How can I create a path to be able to do that? How can I, it doesn't have to be your whole life, but there are parts of our souls that feel better when they are, even if they're just given like a little sliver of things, right? Like making a YouTube channel, or going for a walk every day, or, like how can we do these particular things that nourish all the parts of our soul? And like the soul has this innate need to know itself, to express itself, right? So how can you do these particular things in a way that feels like you're honoring yourself, and that like you are giving space for all that you are. And again, this doesn't have to be public, doesn't have to, everyone else doesn't have to know about it, you don't have to, whatever, but this is really about knowing yourself and listening to yourself and giving yourself like grace and compassion and understanding within yourself to express yourself, and how much better that feels than not. So again, really holding that Ignite energy, holding that space for you to just like step into the fullness of your being, and like what does that mean for yourself, like energetically, and also like having a creative outlet or an expression for those different parts of you can be very important. Okay, I'm going to look at your tarot cards. Think of the word, even those tarot reading, your tarot cards, and then I will look at your oracle cards. Okay, yeah. Okay, group 2. A lot of indecision here going on for you. Okay, so you have the Empress, the 2 of Swords, and the 2 of Pentacles. So I feel like this Empress, this is like, really embodied energy. This is who I am. This is what I'm connected to. This is what feels good to me. That's this energy. And then it's right next to these two, the Two of Swords and the Two of Pentacles, which are really about, turning inward and just saying, like refusing to make a decision, right? This Two of Swords is like, I can't do it. I have the blindfold on my eyes. I can't make a choice. I can't make, whatever, like some learned helplessness there. And then the Two of Pentacles is like balancing, like, oh, I don't know which one to do. I don't know what to do, right? So maybe it doesn't just have to be two things, obviously, but I feel like, group two, this is a reminder that sometimes we have these parts of ourselves that want to be expressed. And as we continue to grow and change and move through life, sometimes those things look different. So maybe there was a time in your life where you didn't feel the need to express yourself in this certain way, but now you want to, or there was something that used to be important to you and now it isn't like the most important for you to have be part of your life anymore, right? So I think this is really saying like you can trust if you've never expressed yourself in a certain way, or if you've never like shown up in a certain way, you've never done something in a certain way, this is a reminder that it's okay for you to really honor that cycle and honor these things and just let them be and let them come to be and let them, just kind of like your soul knows what it's doing and like let it express yourself in that way, right? There's things that used to fit for like a chunk of your life and then they don't fit anymore. And there's things that you didn't even know existed that suddenly are a really good fit for you now, right? So these things are a reminder that, there is this like divine energy plan of you, and the soul is so expansive and there's so many things that can happen in life, and there's so many things that can be like, what's the thing I used to do? Now I don't do it anymore, or this is something that I never did, but now I want to start doing it, right? So just really allowing yourself, to just make a choice and just start expressing yourself. Like, again, you can't choose wrong. If you start to do something, you don't like it, you can stop, right? You don't have to, like, you're not committed to life for it. Like these hobbies or these ways you want to express yourself or what's going on. So I feel like, just taking the chance and, really honoring like the ways that your soul wants to know itself, that it wants to express itself in this life. Again, the ways you want to take up space, the ways you want to show up for yourself, like all of that is important. And again, it's like what's going on the soul level for us to feel like connected and clear in this realm and like connected to ourselves. Okay, then we have the Page of Wands, Six of Wands, and Seven of Cups. So yeah, so I feel like once you start doing something differently, once you start with like, oh yeah, this is actually a thing I'm interested in. This is the thing that feels good to me. This is a way I want to, whatever, show up for myself. Once you start doing that and you just take one little action, one little thing, right? That's going to turn into this energy of like, I did it. I know what's going on. I feel proud of myself, right? Six of Wands is about pride and being proud of yourself and showing up and being like, I did it. Look at all this, right? It just takes you do one little thing differently and then you're consistent with it. And then it adds up over and over and over again. And that's really important. And then, that Seven of Cups, I feel like that's going to open more possibilities for you. It could be more possibilities around this particular activity, or it could be, I met this amazing friend that I have because I did this one thing, or I learned this thing about myself because I did this one thing, or I realized I wanted to do this, and this thing, right? So all of these go together in a way that's really, you have to take one little step different, and then like so much opens up on the path for you. All you have to do is just have faith, do one right action, one next right thing. All of that continues to add up, and that's how you continue to grow and change and continue to know yourself and just, open these layers of ourselves that maybe, again, we didn't know before. But it all starts with just doing like one little thing differently, and you have no idea what's going to open up to you just because you chose to do one thing differently, right? So just doing one thing differently, building self-confidence, self-esteem comes from consistency. It comes from being brave. It comes from putting ourselves out there. It comes from trying new things, right? All of those are really important in terms of, letting ourselves grow and expand. And again, letting ourselves be surprised by like the soul expression that comes out that, we didn't touch, we didn't realize was there, if we hadn't like pushed ourselves to grow and change. Okay, then we have the Hierophant, the Nine of Cups, and the World. So yeah, I feel like, the world is just going to keep opening up to you. There's going to be more and more opportunities. You're going to have all your wishes fulfilled. Like, again, if you like stick with the basics. The Hierophant to me is about like doing the basics of your life, whatever that looks like for you, right? It could be following these certain, whatever your self-care or the ways you show up for yourself or take care of yourself, whatever those are, do them. That's what the Hierophant represents, okay? And then this Nine of Cups in the world is a reminder that when you do that, when we're consistent, like that's when we feel emotionally proud of ourselves. That's how we build self-esteem, from continuing to show up for ourselves, even when we don't feel like it, even when we feel like nothing's happening, even when we, whatever. That's how all those things add up. And then the world energy is about like, cycles completing. And of course, it's about the world, right? And so like continuing to show up for ourselves and then letting ourselves feel like, okay, this is an option for me now, or this is a thing for me now, or this is like a way that I, didn't realize that I could show up for myself, or I could have this thing, or I could, whatever. So just remembering that when we're trying new things, we can't lose our relationship with ourselves, and we can't, I mean, you could, but I wouldn't suggest it, right? You can't, like, it's important for us to continue to show up for ourselves and take care of ourselves amidst all this stuff, so we can keep moving forward and doing these things. So again, the Hierophant energy here of just like, what's the basics? How do I know to take care of myself? What feels good to me, right? And then this Nine of Cups is about just remembering like we feel like we can feel fulfilled even in ways that maybe we didn't think they would, right? The inner work we do, the ways we show up for ourselves, will always give us some feeling of love and care back to ourselves, even if we can't see like the exact way while it's happening. And then again, that world energy is like opening up possibilities, like cycles completing, even like parts of ourselves being exposed to ourselves that we didn't know before, that we didn't like, see could be possible for us or anything like that. So just remembering like, life is long. There's lots of opportunities for you to show up for yourself. There's lots of opportunities for you to change. There's so many people you get to be in one lifetime. So many things we get to do, and just really, honoring that and holding space for that within yourself. Oh my God, crazy. 10, 10, 10. 10 of Cups, 10 of Swords, and 10 of Pentacles. So lots of fulfillment here, okay? Group 2, I feel like if you've been waiting for the push to kind of like, get kicked out of the nest and start flying, this is the time, okay? So I see emotional fulfillment and physical reality fulfillment here, but also, sometimes that comes with loss, and that comes with having to say no things. But what I'm hearing is like, if you respect yourself and when we live in integrity, and when we make choices that reflect that we care about ourselves and we respect ourselves, we have to say no to a lot of things. The world we live in really encourages us to ignore ourselves, to downplay ourselves, to not feel that proud of ourselves, to not feel like we can really be, whatever. And so sometimes that comes with loss, with defeat. Like, is anything even happening, right? Sometimes these things that seem like setbacks actually can turn into things that are better for us, because we have the emotional fulfillment of our own integrity, right? We have like the calmingness and the soothingness of like, I did it, I stood up for myself, I said no, this is my boundary, this is my standard, this is my expectation, and like going along with that. Whereas this 10 of Pentacles is also about just like, well, I did these things for myself, so I know that I'm not allowing this and this thing into my life. And so I feel like, this this whole reading sounds like, wow, woohoo, I'm gonna go do it, so amazing, right? But it's still a piece that it's like, there is still hardship, there is still loss, there are still things that will not go our way. And that isn't any value or it's not a reflection of your value or your worth. That's just part of life. Things in life happen that don't feel the best, that we don't feel like, oh, who am I to accept this thing, right? But this is a reminder that there is hardship and pain and loss, but it does all come together. And it does all, it's not about, again, like, oh, well, this thing happened to me, something's wrong with me. There's so much we can't control. It's more about how we're responding to these things that are happening, and like the emotional fulfillment we're giving to ourselves and getting from like connections that we love and care about and people we love and care about. And again, like how we're respecting ourselves in physical reality, how we're showing up for that, the choices we're making with that, right? All of these things are very, very important to us. Okay, we'll just get 3 more cards. Yeah, you can do it. Okay, you can do it. So there's this energy of again, I feel like the last message just really coming out is just using your discernment, right? So, but you have what it takes. You can do these things, you can show up for yourself, you have this energy. And then this Ace of Wands is just, starting over, not starting over, but starting something new and putting yourself out there and being like, okay, I'm done with this chapter of my life. I'm ready to go. And knowing that not everything can come with you, right? So this Five of Swords is really just a reminder that not everything can come with you. You can't do everything on your own. You can't, everything can't come exactly how it was. We have different boundaries, things change in our lives, and really respecting that as part of, again, the process of life, and really holding space for that within yourself. But you can do it. This is the first thing I heard when I pulled these cards. You can do it. And just don't forget how much just putting your hand on your heart and saying, like, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. Like, that's a really comforting, good affirmation for yourself, even if it feels like, it's not super accessible for you right now. Okay, I'm going to look at your oracle cards. Look at it. You're already doing it. Stop overthinking. Keep facing your true north. So just what I was saying, right? I can do it. I can do it. We have to remember that when we have these ideas, or when we want to take up more space, when we want to express ourselves, right? That's coming from something beyond us. That's coming something from beyond our human selves. It's coming from something that is like, so, we have to trust what's in our hearts, because God made our hearts. And if we trust God, then we trust our hearts, right? And so you're already doing it. If you decide you want to do something, like, that means it's already something that you can do and do well and move forward. And so have faith in that, right? And have faith in, stop overthinking it. Just do one thing at a time. Don't get caught up in the, well, how is this going to happen? And how is it going to be like this? And how is it going to whatever, I'm really hearing is like, you're already doing it, obviously, but just, just keep going one thing at a time, one thing at a time. You'll figure it out along the way. The journey is just as important as what you're trying to work towards, what you're trying to make happen, what you're trying to, whatever. But you're already doing it. Don't forget, you are, okay? You already have the energy. And you are totally capable, which is what came out with that Nine of Pentacles. Then we have death. So again, I feel like this is also the last message that came out with these cards, and was also in your reading a little bit group too, of like, not everything can come with you. And, when it's time for us to grow and expand into these new versions of ourselves, there will be parts of us that don't come with us. There will be parts of us that don't really resonate in this new part of our lives. There will be parts of us that don't really feel like, who am I to continue to move forward and do all these things? So this death card is, letting things die, letting things not continue on if you can feel that they're not for you anymore, right? And death is a reminder that there's always life after death again, right? These things happen, then there can be something else. And so this death energy is just a reminder that, again, all these things are for you, they're working on for you, not everything can come with you, and that's okay. As frustrating, as sad as it can be, that's part of life. We accumulate so many things, and it's just important for us to kind of like release them as we continue on. Okay, and then lastly, we have separation is an illusion. So this is just a reminder that, if you feel like, I don't know how to do this, I can't connect to this, I can't whatever, right? This is a reminder that you can, first of all, okay, so you can do it. And second of all, like, when we feel disconnected from these parts of us, like, who am I to be this thing, or who am I to show up in this way, or who am I to whatever? It's like, if you can feel that you feel called to that, you can trust that there isn't a separation between you doing it and you starting on the path, right? You're already doing it. You're already like, this is already something that has value to you. This is already something that feels good to you. And so really honoring that, and just remembering, again, like, separation is an illusion, is a reminder that, we can feel like, well, I'm not that person, I'm not this. It's like, well, work on your self-concept and work on taking these actions and just, shifting the image of yourself in your brain. There isn't separation between, this person you want to grow into and the person you are right now, even if it, feels like it, because 3D reality is a little clunky. It's a little, all of that. But yeah, how we can look at that is important. Okay, and then also, if you feel stuck, of course, there's no separation from God, right? If you feel far from God, who moved, Afghan proverb, right? Just remembering that there are so many things that, we're like, oh my God, God abandoned me, whatever. It's like, no, your interpretation of the situation makes you think God abandoned you, but God is always right there, right? Physical reality things, other people's free will choices, those are not God, even though our ego wants to tell us that they are. Okay, we'll close with one affirmation card. It is safe to slow down, relax, and let go. What a nice message, okay? This is really hard for a lot of us, especially if you grew up in situations that were the opposite of this, right? But This is a reminder that you do have more agency over your life. You can slow down, you can relax, you can let go, you can let things come together in their own timing, you can let things unfold in their own way. You can, loosen your grip and let these things just do your part and trust that you're being taken care of with the rest. So this is a really, really good affirmation, right? So it's safe to slow down, relax, and let go. Say that over and over, say it calmly, breathe in, safe to slow down, it's safe to relax, it's safe to let go, right? Just continuing to nourish that within yourself. As you decide to take actions and move into these next things, right? Sometimes we're like, oh my God, I can't do this because I need to control everything. But no, it's safe to slow down, it's safe to relax, it's safe to let go. Okay, that's everything I have for you. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. If you want any more information about me, all that is linked below. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Hi everyone, welcome to everyone who picked group number 3. So you all picked the card, the guinea fowl. So this bird is a reminder of the importance of community. Okay, this bird represents community. For those of us who have suffered in life and gone through betrayal or hardship or anything like that, it's easy for us to want to shut down and close our hearts and not be open and, all of that. Totally understandable. But when we do that, when we shut our hearts down, like to prevent the bad things, we also inadvertently prevent the good things. We prevent care from people who actually love us and care about us. We prevent connection from people who actually want to be with us. We, prevent all of that. And so this card is a reminder that you can use discernment. You don't have to go all or nothing. Sometimes when we're wounded, again, totally understandable, we can go into this place of like, I'm shutting down, I'm not doing anything, I'm not connected to anyone, I'm not, whatever. Like we really want to look at that. But which again, understandable, but long term that does more harm than good, right? Sometimes we might want to go into a place where we need a little time to ourselves where we do that, but how can you use discernment to connect to people who actually can be your community? And especially for those of us in the West, this capitalistic world we live in really encourages like a lot of rugged individualism. Again, doesn't help anyone long term. And so this card is a reminder of like, what is my idea of community? What does that mean to me? What does that look like? Who are people that I feel like are in my community? Who are people I can rely on, I can trust, I can open up to, I can relax into, all of that. So again, this guinea fowl is a reminder of like, how can I use my discernment to do that, right? Because the other thing is like, there's one extreme of totally shutting down, not connecting to anyone, not doing all of that. And then the other extreme is like, I have no boundaries. I'm open to anyone. I just will dump everything onto anyone I meet, blah, 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 right? We don't want either of those. We want the nice gray area middle. So reminding yourself, like, I can use discernment. I can show the parts of myself that I want to share with people when I want to who feels good, to who feels right to me, right? You don't have to go all or nothing on this. You don't have to like be open to everyone 100 million%, like completely abandon yourself. There can be some discernment there. There can be some awareness. There can be some understanding that like, okay, there are things that work for me and these are what they are. And these other things don't work for me. And these are the situations that I want to open up. And these are the situations that I don't. Just remembering like no one, I mean, I guess you could probably, but it's better when we have community, when we have care, when we have people who love and are connected to us. And so, remembering like your definition of community and the people you want to open up to and connect with, like that can be unique for you. And maybe that will feel a little more comfortable and safer and better than, the other way, which is like, I don't want to do anything. I can't open anyone, whatever, or I'm going to open up to everyone. Everyone's allowed to be in my life. I'm allowed to give everyone a chance, even if they've never done anything to show me that they actually value me or care about me, right? So just a reminder, you do have a choice with these things. You do have a choice with who you choose to be your community, how you show up, and what that looks like for you. So I feel like, again, getting rid of this like lone wolf energy and really, taking the first step to connect to people and have connection with that will be, important for you as you continue to move forward. And life doesn't get any easier. It's just we get through these things with our own inner strength that we build and with the community that we choose to connect with and offer like the care we can offer one another. Okay, I'm gonna look at your tarot cards and then I'll look at your oracle cards. Okay, so we have the Fool, Justice, and Ace of Pentacles. So, I mean, take a chance. That's the first thing I heard as soon as the Fool came out. This is just really big energy of just like you, you can't like expect your life to change or to meet the people that are for you or to find your community, right? If you're just like completely walled off. They can be physically, right? If you're at home all the time, if you aren't putting yourself out there, or it could be, if you're like around people, but you're not trying to connect to people or open your heart. And again, that doesn't mean like you meet everyone and suddenly you decide they're your best friend, right? You can have discernment, you can have a choice, you can have all of this, but it is a reminder that you have to put yourself out there if you want something to happen. You can't just like expect all these things to come to be without you doing your part with it, right? And then this justice energy is a reminder that you can trust your boundaries, right, with this sword, and you can trust that there can be equilibrium. So this isn't saying again, be foolish with what you're doing, but you can use your discernment. So I just want to make it very clear that when we decide to do something for ourselves, when we decide to put ourselves out there, when we decide to whatever, right? Sometimes we think, well, how can I be sure this person's going to do this? Or how can I be sure that, and we can't, that we just can't. But that's where it comes down to like, do I trust myself? Do I trust my boundaries? Do I trust the ways I show up for myself? Do I trust the ways that I know I can be there for myself? And if so, then like, why am I so afraid to move forward? What am I afraid with these things is going to happen and all of that? And then the Ace of Pentacles is like, this is like the birthing of a new thing, of a new idea, of a new situation, of a new whatever. So I feel like, again, you can create these connections. That's the amazing thing about being a human, is if we're willing, like our heart can expand over and over and over again. We can find new connections. We can find people for us. We can keep continuing to grow and change with all these things. But that happens when we are willing to do all this stuff. So again, the Fool, Justice, Ace of Pentacles, just, having all these ingredients like in their little, I can't think of the word, in the amount that you need them, like is what's important, right? Not being like completely no boundaries, whatever, not being completely rigid and not being open to new things, right? We need to have a little bit of all that stuff if you want to keep growing, if you want to keep changing, if you want to keep learning. So again, when you're thinking about community, when you're thinking about who you want to be in the world, how you want to show up, finding that balance between like putting yourself out there, but knowing that like you're not going to be like stupid. You can have boundaries. You can say, this doesn't work for me. This isn't what's right for me, right? And then the Ace of Pentacles, you can have like there's still space for new things to be created in your life. So just having, again, that mix of all of those things, can really serve you and can really be there for you to help you along the way as you build community with other people, but also as you build community within yourself with that. Okay, then we have the Three of Wands, the Nine of Swords, and the Lover. So I feel like there's probably some wounding here around romantic relationships. Hello, welcome to the club. That happens to everybody. Not dismissing it, but it is normal. Okay, like this is a nightmare. I don't want to think about this. I don't want to open to that. But just remembering, like, again, you have a choice. You have a choice if you want to move forward. You have a choice if you want to use discernment. You have a choice if you want to be open to connecting with new people. And just asking yourself, like, how we all need our healing process and we all need time to turn inward and soothe ourselves. But sometimes it gets to the point where it's like, am I harming myself by how much I'm like not letting myself continue to move forward in my life, by letting myself continue to, grow and expand and trust and love again? Again, you won't be foolish. You won't be stupid. You won't like completely forget all the lessons you learned, right? Sometimes it gets to the point where it's like, oh my God, I don't need to be doing that anymore. And community can come from your romantic partner, which is totally fine. Partners, whatever you do. But I think because this is just an individual reading, this is also a reminder of like finding balance within yourself, right? So when we talked about this Justice card, this was about discernment with outside forces, but I think this is also about using discernment within yourself, right? So say like, okay, well, I know I have a tendency to, I don't know, trust people immediately right away. And so I want to like pull that back a little bit. It's like none of these characteristics are bad inherently, but it's just when they get one extreme or the other, that's when they can be harmful for us, right? So it's like, well, I know I don't have any boundaries with anyone, or I'm a people pleaser. And so how can I find that balance within myself? Remembering we do have a choice here. And when we are able to be reflective and think about the ways that we have or have not shown up in the past, no judgment, we're always doing our best. But once you realize that, how can you move forward? How can you make a different choice? How can you choose something that, wasn't necessarily very clear before. And this is like, again, the part where it's not about judging yourself or shaming yourself or being like, oh, I can't believe I did that. It was so embarrassing. It's just remembering like you did the best you could. And now it's time to move forward. And so what are you going to choose for yourself? How are you going to show up? What are you going to, how do you want to change your energy and your pattern in this so you're not like, contributing to your own suffering anymore? It's very important. And having faith in your ability to change, to be different, to know that, okay, this is what I did before, but now I know I want to be a little bit different, right? And sometimes it doesn't even have to be like this big giant, I'm so different than how I used to be. It could just be, well, this is the way I used to be, and now I'm going to be a little bit different now, and that's okay. And just holding space for that within yourself can be important. Okay, then we have the Sun, the Seven of Swords, and the Six of Pentacles. So I feel like, this is very clear finding balance of sometimes the Seven of Swords is like being cheated on or being robbed out of something or whatever. And then the Six of Pentacles is very clearly about like accepting care and finding balance with that, right? And so the Sun, I feel like what I'm hearing with these three cards together is it's time to tell a new story or to surrender your energy or try to, like, we can't just like completely wipe away what happened to us, right? But it's about not carrying these things that have happened to us into present day situations, right? So whether you did get cheated out of something, or whether, you were like to the point that you weren't being empowered enough to take care of yourself fully, this is like starting over and just saying like, can I have a new template with this within myself? Can I find the balance between like trusting that not everyone wants to screw me over and I also can accept care, like can you find that middle ground? Can you trust that people who have been around you are healthy enough to be able to show up for you in those ways and what you can do and how you can do all of that? And that's really important, right? So the Sun energy is like the innocence of a new child, of just like, looking with fresh eyes, of deciding to tell a new story, to have a new template, to do all of these things, and just not carrying, again, so much of this wounding with you every single second of every single day to whatever you're doing. And just remembering that, how people treated you in the past. There are so many healthy people in this world. There are so many people who want to love you just as you are and just for being yourself, that you don't need to have, the wall up for forever. Again, use your discernment. You don't have to like be like, act like stupid or like you're never going to figure out what's going to happen or anything like that. Like you can use your discernment with this, but this is a reminder that when you do use that discernment, it's okay to trust someone. It's okay to have an open heart. It's okay to see with fresh eyes, with innocent eyes, with new energy, instead of like, oh, I can never, accept help again because when I did, this horrible thing happened, or I can never open my heart to someone because this other thing happened. It's like seeing the world with like the innocence of a child, and not in like a naive way, but just in a way that's like, I have a pure heart. And so I believe that I can connect with other people who also have pure hearts, who do want to take care of me, who do have good interests for me, who do want to, love and care for me in these particular ways. Okay, let me get a few more for you. Yeah. Okay. So exactly what you're talking about. So you can trust your boundaries for sure. You can trust in the lessons you've learned, right? So we have Nine of Wands, King of Swords, and Queen of Pentacles. So I just feel like, it's okay. Maybe you've been like toying with the idea of like, is it safe to put myself back out there? Is it safe to do this? Is it safe to whatever? Yes. Okay. So this is like just being like, going with a little trepidation, which is fine. It's okay to move at the pace that works for you, as long as you keep moving a little bit, right? This King of Swords, this is like steel boundaries, rock solid, very clear. Someone who has mastered, this is what I will allow, this is what I will not allow. If you don't feel like you've mastered that, make a list. Like if someone talks to me in this way, I don't want to be close with them. If someone, is doing this particular behavior, that's not someone I want to be close with. If, whatever, like, so just get very clear on your boundaries and trust that you have learned your lessons and you don't need to keep punishing yourself and doubting yourself around those things. And then this Queen of Pentacles is just, again, like a lot of emotional mastery, a lot of like very advanced energy here. So I feel like sometimes, when we take the time to heal and go inward and connect to ourselves, we don't realize how much things have shifted on the inside, because the last story we have is like, oh, well, this thing happened and it was so hard and it was so painful, it was so whatever. But when we do that inner work, especially when we're not seeing stuff in physical reality, it can be easy to downplay how much we're doing. And I think this is very clear to me, for you guys in group 3, that if you have been doing the work, you have been showing up, you have been doing all, you can trust that. And you can trust that, like, even if the knee-jerk response is there to respond in a certain way, like, you do have these boundaries, and you can trust in the way that you have shown up for yourself, to be able to do these things. And so, it's okay to take like one little step out of the woods, one little step, like, okay, here I go, I'm going to see what's going on and see what's happening for myself here, right? But leaning into that and having faith, instead of just feeling like, I can't do anything, I can't do this, I can't show up, I can't, whatever. But again, leaning into that and trusting yourself more than you have been previously. And just, letting yourself see that you've changed, that you've done the inner work, you have shown up for yourself, you do care about yourself. Sometimes, we can't see those changes until we put ourselves back out there and we see, oh, I have changed, I am different, something is going on here that wasn't before. Okay, I'm gonna look at your oracle cards. Okay, look, so this is exactly what I was talking about, time to heal and rise. So again, just a reminder that, don't downplay the inner work you've been doing. Sometimes it feels like nothing's happening because we're so focused on, like, when we're required to do our inner work, we can get so focused on, I'm doing this and nothing's happening, and look at this, nothing's happening, right? Nothing's happening in physical reality, right? But when we do this inner work, when we commit to ourselves, when we do our healing, when we do that, right, it's easier for us to just be like, nothing's happening, nothing's happening. And then suddenly we're in a situation and we're like, oh my God, how I would have reacted before is like this, but now I'm doing this. Or, oh, well, I thought I should have done this, but now I'm doing this, right? And so time to rise up, time to heal and rise is just a reminder that you can trust the inner work you've been doing, and you can trust the ways you are going to show up in the future, and you can trust yourself to continue to grow and change. So time to heal and rise is a reminder that, you've put the work in, you can trust yourself, you can keep going, all of these things. And then we have birthing a new age, birthing new creations, dreaming a new world into being. So of course that starts with ourselves, right? We all have our own little worlds that we live in. We all have our own little whatever. But this is a reminder that when you put this work in, when you do have these ideas, these new situations, like, that is contributing to, when you get healthier, everything around you gets healthier, right? Simply because certain behaviors are not appropriate, or you won't allow them anymore, or whatever. So this is a reminder that the work you do for yourself is a gift, not just to yourself, but everyone you interact with the world, with all of this. And so just a reminder that it's okay to, grow into these new spaces. And when we're thinking about community, right? Like what I was talking about in the beginning, how does community look like for you? What does that feel like for you? And knowing you can create that, you can create a new age, you can create all of these things for yourself. And so again, what does that look like for you? What do you want to do? All of that, trusting and leading into that. And then the last card we have is Get Curious. So this is really beautiful. And I think, again, like with the specific example of finding community, that group 3 was like a pretty big theme for you guys. This is also about, getting curious around, like, what is in my heart? What does feel right for me? What does feel like the right thing for me? What does my growth lead into? What do I feel like I'm being called to or connected to, right? So Get Curious is a reminder that, it's okay to just turn inward and say, what is working for me? What is not working for me? Where do I want to grow? Where do I want to change, right? Sometimes when we're really committed to our inner work, and we think like, okay, this is a goal I have, sometimes that changes along the way, and knowing that that's okay. And so getting curious is just, again, turning inward, looking to yourself with like curious compassion, with curiosity that's coming from a place of like knowing yourself instead of judging yourself, just saying like, what could I do to show up for myself now? What could I do to, get clear about what's going on inside of myself? What can I do to hear the voices that's inside of me? It's like sometimes we grow and change and we don't even realize it. And that's why continuing to build a connection with ourselves and with our higher power helps us get clear about the ways that we can do these things for ourselves, right? So Get Curious is, it's okay to want to continue to know yourself and turn inward and keep developing that curiosity within yourself as you move through life. And just even knowing like, this thing that worked for me for 15 years doesn't work for me anymore, and I want to be different, and that looks like this, and so just being curious about that instead of like, oh, I have to do this particular thing in this other way, or whatever. It's just letting yourself be curious about where your heart's leading you to go, what that looks like for you, what your desires are, instead of, being like, oh no, something's wrong with me because I want this particular thing, or I want to do this other thing differently, or, whatever. I'm going to close with one affirmation card for you guys. When I see good in others, I acknowledge it out loud. Okay, so this is really nice because, first of all, everyone loves a compliment. Okay, even if people don't know how to respond to it, it's very nice. A sign of high emotional intelligence is the ability to give and receive compliments. So that's one thing. And also it helps our minds program and see these are things I like and don't like. So when we're talking about building community, we're talking about, building community within ourselves, with other people, with the people we want in our lives, right? If we pay attention to, okay, I like when someone does this, I like when someone does that. When we do that, that reinforces that and make it stronger for ourselves, right? So when I see good in others, I acknowledge it out loud. Beneficial for you, beneficial for them, beneficial for everything. But yes, again, when I see good in others, I acknowledge it out loud. Helpful, good, clear, and yeah, win-win for everyone. Okay, that's everything I have for you. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. If you ever want any more information about me, all that is linked below. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.